Colin, thank you so much for taking the time. I'm so grateful to talk to you. Everyone was just so impressed at the work that you did with kids. You're very analytical and you see things at a very high level and see systems very well. So we put you in charge of designing our remote program because so many students that we see, we know Zoom won't work well for them. Making kids with ADHD and anxiety or something else sit in front of Zoom for an hour. We just know that doesn't work. What's that been like over the past couple months to work on that?
Since the beginning, it was really clear that remote has certain challenges and huge opportunities. I like to focus on the opportunities a lot to sort of leverage the things that are beneficial about virtual. One of the coolest opportunities of the virtual sessions is that they're conducted in the actual workspace of our students, whether that's in their living rooms or in their bedrooms at their desks. So we connect in this space where they're already doing their work and we help them optimize in that setting, which I think is awesome.
The fact that you're trying to do behavior change and optimize it within the environment, it's such a cool thought and it's new to our world.
I think that some students, they operate better in the environments that they feel most comfortable. They'll be a little bit more open to suggestions. They'll be a little bit more flexible with their strategies when they're working from an environment that feels supportive and familiar.
I don't think that's a lot of people's mindset going into it. If I wanted remote coaching, I would look at it because I don't want to sit in traffic or the convenience or the person that I wanted wasn't in my geographical area. But besides the convenience portion, when we talk about this remote thing for executive function coaching, what else are the benefits?
I think that there's this big benefit of having constant support because unlike a lot of other supports for young people, this is continual. A mentor will meet with their students twice a week for a short amount of time that feels for almost all students like really doable, really approachable. It's just the perfect amount of time to get in, practice some strategies and organize the week so everything feels really concrete for the student, but it's not too long that you start to dread the sessions. It's just the right amount of time. It's often enough that you don't forget about what you're supposed to do. You don't lose track of the strategies. We check in almost every other day. And then for a lot of students, they're accessing the homework center in between. So it's almost like a 360 support. It's really constant. And that just holds students in their best practices and helps support them to be productive and efficient and really helps lower their stress just to have that constant support because they don't feel like they're meeting with a mentor once a week and then the other 6 days they have to hold it up themselves.
I love that you said that because I grew up in a more traditional model where if I meet with someone on Monday, a mental health person or whatever that was, if I had to wait till the following Monday and then check back in about my progress on those assignments, like there's no way. That might as well be 1,000 years. We know best practice for these kids is short and to the point and then quick feedback loops. And they have the ability to text their mentor in between and just always feeling supported.
That's one of the most interesting things about big goals that people set for themselves is that they feel so distant, but the key to achieving them is the daily connection with that goal. Our support really reflects that necessity of achieving goals through small incremental day-to-day efforts. And that's the kind of support that we provide through the remote mentoring.
That's what I love about what you've designed is that, again, coming back to my experiences, I need frequent accountability. I've probably wrecked my life if I wait Monday to the following Monday. I've probably already done something I shouldn't do. And I've probably already given up on those goals, even if I came out of the session motivated. The fact that we've paired it for several sessions throughout the week, there's always that safety net and there's always that quick feedback loop for the kids. So break it down for me. I am a parent and I'm looking at this remote program. Explain to me step by step exactly how this would look, let's say for a high school student.
Well, the first thing is that we start off by pairing a student with a mentor that we know is going to work well with them. We look at the student's background and we pair them with someone with a similar background. And the sessions start often by the mentor and the student establishing a relationship. And this is huge because our untapped mentors are people who have a background in education or often psychology. They have experience working with students, oftentimes neurodiverse students. They have recently gone through a lot of the experiences that our students have. They also are people who are implementing executive functioning strategies themselves in their own lives and care deeply about how these strategies can really, really help provide freedom and productivity to people.
That relationship is so important. The science science shows us kids don't do hard things for people they don't like or respect. How do we build a relationship online?
A lot of the relationship building comes through questioning and listening. Students in their day-to-day lives at school, at their sports teams, they don't have that much time to provide input. They're mostly receiving instructions and dealing with that. In our sessions, we have strategies built for our mentors to ask the right questions to allow students to open up. We have mentors who are amazing at listening and understanding the students that they're working with. A lot of them understand through a personal perspective of things that they've gone through and can relate to the students in that way. So a lot of the foundational relationships that all of the executive functioning is built on is really established through that reflective inquiry and listening process. You're checking in with students in the ebb and flow of their week, not only at the high points, but also at their low points. So you get to know someone at their best and their worst and connect with them in those different moments and support them. And it's every single student who has those high points and low points in the semester. That's why the relationship is so strong, is because you get to know the whole individual in a really powerful way.
So the first step is pairing based on what we think is going to be the best relationship. We've worked hard on that. And then building that relationship. What next?
What comes next is for students to really connect with what their authentic goals are. We have special strategies developed for students to really understand what goal setting means. So they set goals that are authentic to them, that meet their personal dreams and their personal desires, but also what they're responsible for. They're goals that students can really get behind. Once we set those goals that a student wants to work towards, we pair those with the executive functioning skills that will be most key in unlocking those goals. That's a conversation that happens between the mentor and the student to decide what those key executive functioning skills are. Through a series of different workshops and strategies, students and mentors will build block by block that development in those key executive functioning skills.
You and I both know many of our students, they're not motivated by school. School isn't the thing they're chasing, but we still need to do well in school. How do you think about that goal setting?
We have major spheres of our lives. Everyone has their academic when you're young and later professional sphere. You have your social and personal spheres. None of them can work without the other ones being supported. When we set goals, we set them in the personal, the social, and the academic areas of a student's life. So it's well balanced, and those areas support each other. From there, we define what the specific goal is. A lot of our students will have the concrete goal of achieving a certain GPA. And we measure that, whether those goals are completed or not, in a really concrete way. We also measure the executive functioning growth that happens to allow a student to try to accomplish that goal. So we're measuring both things, the concrete goal completion and also a more qualitative skill development.
I like that a lot because a lot of parents are like, well, I just need my kid to get into this university. If it's solely about that, and we're not working towards other aspects or other goals in their lives, it doesn't feel meaningful. We both know that kids with executive function deficits, it has to be concrete. If we can build these skills, not only will they improve academically, but the work will feel meaningful, will keep them engaged, which is the big thing here.
Yeah, absolutely.
You said we meet 2 times per week, and obviously our program's individualized for each kid. But what would a first session look like, and what would a second session look like?
Throughout the week, there's a very typical meeting arc. The first session, students and mentors will kind of plan out all of the logistical things that have to happen that week, which includes homework assignments that are coming up, personal responsibilities to their sports teams or to any kind of social club they might be part of. It can be progress that they need to make towards college applications, a whole bunch of logistical things we plan out with our students and we sort of map out in their weekly plan. We also talk about what will be the approaches to all of those activities that will benefit them the most, oftentimes bringing in executive functioning strategies. From there, the students will have their week. They'll have check-ins in between sessions via text or maybe a quick phone call. They might utilize the homework center to bust out a big homework thing that they have to be accountable for that week. And then in the second session of the week, we oftentimes turn a lot to reflection on what went well and what was challenging. We help the student sort of reflect on why things went well and what they needed in order to better confront the challenges that came up. And there's always challenges that came up. So that's when we look further into the executive functioning skills and strategies to figure out what we need to tweak in a student's life, what we can dial in for them to better hit those challenges the following week.
That reflection is something that's so commonly missed. It's like on the last day of school, our kids run away and never think about what happened, or when a test is over, it went good or it didn't. But we didn't take time to reflect, like, what was our process? Like, we know we learned different, but we don't know how we learned. So I love that you're building in that self-assessment, metacognition. What about instruction? What if my student needs help with math or writing? What does that look like?
I think it's important to mention that we always address and practice executive functioning skills directly through looking at the assignments that our students have to do. For instance, when a student comes to me with a research paper, we start that project together and we start working through it, but we bring in executive functioning strategies like chunking down that assignment into pieces that are really easy to tackle. In that way, we're doing both simultaneously. We're tackling the assignments that students have, but really through different executive functioning lenses. With a math problem, it might be bringing in organization to how are you going to sort of balance the equation in this algebra assignment, and how your organized approach to that can also be a transferable skill to other parts of your life.
What you said is so important about starting it with them too, because we've noticed that post-pandemic, getting started, that's 75% of the issue. A lot of people think, well, online, how are you going to do this math problem? We have tools for that, but with so many of our students, we're not just focusing on the content, we're focusing on the organization of the problem. It's chunking it down. If they have a start on that paper or start on that presentation, you're going to work downhill.
Once students have that concrete support just to get started, they can feel their momentum building, and they really double down on the fact that executive functioning skills are creating such an impact. And you just see this openness that they have to want to keep developing those skills because they see how much easier it makes their lives and how well they can tackle the things that are coming up.
Another question we get with remote is, like, what if the mentor doesn't know physics? How have you built the program to tackle an issue like that?
In school, students are always given sort of a procedure to follow. So with physics, it might be a procedure where you read the instructions and then you follow the steps of the problem. A mentor can really come in and help a student organize their approach to follow those procedures, even if they're not a content expert. Academic support doesn't just start at the moment of opening up the textbook and getting into it. It's a whole array of strategies around tackling that assignment. And it starts with like having regular academic hours that can boost focus and concentration and memory. It starts with providing support for students to have the self-advocacy skills to regularly hit up their professor or their teacher's office hours.
How would you teach a kid to advocate to their teacher, professor, parent, boss, whoever? How would you do that in a remote setting?
When students need to advocate to their teachers, oftentimes it's both teaching them how to have that conversation. And we do that through a lot of like role playing and really formulating the questions that they need to be asking their teacher, but also supporting that outreach electronically. So having template emails that they can easily shoot out when they need help on a certain assignment, or having a template email when they need to schedule an appointment with a teacher during office hours. We have that sort of 1-2 approach, which actually the remote setting really helps facilitate and make really clear, because relationships now are both human touch and electronic. This kind of relationship really models that.
That is such an important point. When we went through the pandemic, everything went online. All of our documents, like everything went online, and we never adjusted our organization systems. Like we still have kids organize binders, and that can be important, but no one's taught students how to organize digitally and advocate digitally and all this other stuff you're speaking to. What about movement? We talk a lot about movement and how amazing that is for the brain. Do you include that in the remote tour? How does that look?
When we recommend that students study, oftentimes it's studying for a solid chunk of time and then taking a short movement break. In a lot of our sessions, we will have part of our session as a focused conversation where we're working through material, and then we'll take like a brain or a body break, depending on how the student feels that day, to be able to reset our focus and then finish out the session. We do that in the session so that students can take that and apply it to when they need to do work independently as well.
It's in the setting that they're doing homework in regardless, right? whether that's just walking around the house or the room or doing something more intensive, they can just recreate that in the same setting. Who is this remote program for? Who benefits?
I think anyone and everyone can benefit from executive functioning skill work, but the students who have really benefited from the format of a remote program are students from families who have really busy schedules, where fitting an extra commute to be able to access some kind of service is just out of the question. The mentoring sessions can be integrated really nicely into the evening homework time that a student might have. Second, it works really well with students who are in alternative learning settings, students who are in online learning programs or homeschool learning programs, or learn at your own pace programs, because we help set some of the accountability that students need to continue to progress in those programs and to have success there. And finally, it's for students who maybe just feel more comfortable in their home settings and who experience less anxiety and who have greater focus working from the comfort of their own home.
I know we've started seeing a lot of athletes who maybe are only in town for 3 days a week and they're traveling for their sports schedule, whether it's an athlete or a musician or whatever. What's challenging about that is you're missing so much school, but then you can't meet with the coach in person. So it's like this like double whammy. So the fact that they can be on the road in a motel room somewhere and still do their session, we've seen just huge growth from that. I guess the last thing is most people come to see Untapped, but their kid is really struggling with academics. Is coaching only for academics?
Executive functioning skills are so applicable to both the academic and personal endeavors that we have in our lives. I've worked with kids who are musicians who are trying to record and produce their own album, and they just need that structure to be able to move forward, to be able to get that done. I've worked with kids who are applying to jobs who need a little bit more support and direction to be able to chunk down that big sort of scary endeavor that they're on into little concrete pieces, and they can actually move forward with it. I've worked with students who are applying to college. I've worked with students who are training for a athletic event, and all of these sort of personal endeavors benefit so much from executive functioning development. It's super applicable for students who really want to take their academics to the next level, but also for students who just want to feel productive in the time that they have to themselves, whether that's over the summer or in the afternoons after school. We can add that extra momentum and boost for them to be able to really get things done in that time as well.
And most people associate executive function skills with school, but all executive function skills is reaching your goals. Whatever your goals are, having that 2 pats on the back, 1 kick in the tail, the love, the accountability, the strategies, building the skills, it's going to help. Nearly everyone who's watching this or looking at enrolling their kid in a remote program is thinking back to COVID, when the learning experience was not good for our kids, especially the kids with the executive function deficits, staring at Zoom, and parents just thought about what a train wreck it was for our students and how challenging it was to keep them on task. And they're probably equating that with this program. Why is this different from school? And what do you do if you notice the kids just on multiple tabs and playing Minecraft while we're trying to do a session?
The mentoring dynamic is not like a classroom dynamic. When we're one-on-one with students, we're really engaged in being right there with the student. What we can actually do in this one-on-one setting is put them behind the steering wheel a little bit, to be co-creating their weekly plans, to be working on their assignments with us right there alongside of them. Oftentimes, the student will be the one sharing their screen with the mentor, and the mentor will be guiding them through how they check that homework assignment. That's one of the really powerful things about the one-on-one mentor relationship, is that we can be right there with the student as they navigate the digital world, and really helping to instill the right habits that they have when they approach online learning or their homework, which is done through a computer.
That's a great point. They've got to be on it anyways. We might as well develop some good habits. And when that relationship is built, call them out. Like, it's obvious that you're on a different tab. We have that relationship. We feel comfortable to call them out and hold them accountable.
And so much of that is a teachable moment, because the online world is a huge temptation when we're navigating the online world, which is designed deliberately by some of the best minds in engineering and in psychology to distract us. It's a perfect time for students to practice impulse control and not follow that clickbait or not get on the wrong tab, and really help them design the mindsets to approach that work without getting distracted.
I love that. And then once you're done with your work, then you can get distracted, right? Because we're big on opening up freedom, but we have strategies to get through the work and then we allow ourselves to get distracted. Colin, thank you so much for sharing your insights. It's really fascinating to see how you think about bringing education to students in their setting. So I love the amount of work and thought that you've put into developing this remote program.
Thank you so much, Brandon. It was a total pleasure talking to you.